Hello, I'm Janice Murphy Rising, and I'm here today to give you a brief overview and introduction about instincts according to the Enneagram. So, most people know that the Enneagram is a system that has 9 different points that oftentimes relates to your temperament or how you view the world. The nice thing about the Enneagram is when we're talking about instincts is that you don't really need to know your number to know instincts and understand instincts. And so sometimes people know their number and learning their instincts helps enhance and understand their type more completely. And sometimes instincts are a really good way to get that introduction. So let's have a look at Enneagram instincts. Let me pull up my screen. Technical difficulties. All right, so what are instincts? They are the drive or the motivation that's hidden beneath our temperament. Kind of think about it if you know anything about Freud, the id, ego, and superego. The instincts are kind of the id, so that part of that brain behind us that sort of just drive all the autonomic functions like our breathing and our heart rate. And so instincts on a spiritual or emotional level are really, they're just things that we don't really think about. Like they're just habits that we have or things that we do to help ourselves function and go about our daily living. And they can show up more predominantly in one of 3 ways, which I'll get to in just a second. So, yeah, it's about how we go about getting our needs met, and how we resource ourselves, how we might soothe ourselves or bring ourselves back into balance when things go out of alignment or we go into alignment. And much like the Enneagram number, it's about where our attention goes, but it's about where our attention goes in order to find our bearings or find, what feels most at home for us. So the first one, move myself so that you can see that, okay, is self-preservation. Also called self-pres. You might see this shorthand as SP. So this is an instinct related to your environment, your surroundings. My favorite teacher in the world, Dale Rhodes, refers to it as a nest. People with self-pres are often oriented to asking, what do I need to survive? Sometimes can be in crisis. That can just be, looking at, basic needs being met. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Do I need to talk to someone? Do I need to drink more water? So what do I need to sustain myself? And their interest is in things like safety, material possessions, creature comforts. I know some self-pres types that have really amazing collections. Some people that are self-pres don't have collections. I know a self-pres that you can find anything and everything in her purse. So those kind of people that are really reliable, that always have something, might have a dominant self-pres stack is what we call it. The next one, I prefer being called one-to-one because I myself am this instinct. It's also called sexual. Unfortunately, this instinct kind of gets a bad rap. People think that this means we are trying to have sex with everybody. And the reality is that the sexual means that one-to-ones are focused on exactly that, the one-to-one relationship. You'll see these people at a party and they're the ones that are more comfortable talking in a really small group or talking about things that are more in depth. So they're interested in the chemistry. They're interested in the connection that they make to another person. A question they might ask is, how are you and I doing? How are you and we doing in this relationship? They can be intense. So if you have a friend that really looks at you really too deeply, maybe too long, doesn't understand that they're making you uncomfortable, or you're making them uncomfortable. They are making you uncomfortable. They might be a one-on-one, or you might be a one-on-one. So they seek their well-being through interpersonal and intimate connection. They might ask their partners, "How are we doing? Are we okay?" That's part of where their motivation and their drive comes from, is seeking out that one-to-one. And it's not necessarily for someone that's coupled, or even with one partner. It's somebody that might just have lots of really close, intimate friendships or connections with other beings. And the last one is social. It shows up as SO. The one on sexual will show up as SX. Sometimes you'll see them say I'm a 6XX or a 6SO, and that's what that means for shorthand. So with social, the focus is on the group. These are oftentimes people that enjoy being members of boards, unions, fraternities, sororities, universities. They're asking, how do I really relate and participate in the community? So they're asking, how are we doing? Just like the one-on-ones, except for the one-on-ones want to know how you and I are doing. The socials want to know, like, how are we, like, how is the group doing? What is good for the group is also good for the person that is social. They have a drive to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, and they enjoy relating through social networks, maybe social media, networks that connect them in a broader way. Their not necessarily appearance, but like their way of showing up in the world is about finding acceptance and finding congruence within a group. All right. So that is the end of my video. Usually we all have all three instincts, and it's called a stack, meaning that we all have a way of stacking our attention to things. And so, for example, someone that is self-pres might say, I'm self-pres, and that means that they tend to look for the environment, they tend to look for the nest, but that also means that they've got two other numbers behind them, and the way that that is stacked up also shows how their attention goes. And so, for example, someone that's self-pres, social, one-to-one, we would say has a secondary social instinct. And so they might rely on that secondarily or more, not as often, but sometimes just as much. And then the last one, which is the one-to-one, would be a blind spot, which means, sometimes we are blind to, someone with a blind spot that's one-to-one might not pick up on social cues that are about, intimate connection. They might not notice when somebody is, wanting you to deeply listen to them, because that's not their orientation. It's not because they're not nice people. And of course, with the Enneagram, because there's 9 different types, when you know your instinct and you start putting that in aligning with your number, that can show up in different ways too. And that's a whole other video. All right. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about Enneagram and Instinct, please leave it in the comments, or you can reach out to me at janicemurphyrising.com. Be well.